Hey, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about the daily stand up. You know, that meeting that can either be the absolute engine of your project or, let's be honest, a pretty tedious daily ritual. We're going to break down exactly how designers and project owners can give updates that actually build trust and momentum, especially when your team is spread all over the world. So let's jump right in. So here's what we've got lined up. First, we'll get into why this meeting is so critical. Then we'll make sure we're all speaking the same language before we dive into some specific playbooks, one for designers and one for project owners. We'll wrap up with some super practical tips you can use tomorrow and the 3 big ideas you'll want to remember. Okay, so why are we spending all this time on a 15-minute meeting? Well, it's because the stand-up is really the daily heartbeat of a project. It's that one quick focus moment where the whole team's rhythm gets set, where everyone syncs up on what they've done, what's in their way, and what's coming up next. And this quote, right here, this gets to the very core of it. A stand-up is not just about you reading your to-do list out loud. The way you communicate is the work. It's what builds trust. It aligns priorities, and it's what actually fuels collaboration. When you get this right, you stop just reporting on the work and you start driving it forward. You know, Greek collaboration always starts with clear communication. And for that to happen, we all need a shared language. So let's just quickly run through some key terms that get everybody on the same page, which is extra important when you're working across different time zones or departments. Okay, a really huge one is dependency. Just think of it like building blocks. You can't put the top block on until the one underneath it is totally secure, right? In a project, that just means your task is waiting on somebody else's. Spotting these dependencies early and talking about them often is what keeps a project from just grinding to a complete halt. And here is a perfect example of how a project owner might bring this up. Notice how clear this is. It's not some vague complaint. It's specific. We know what is needed, the copy, we know who it's from, marketing, and we know when it's needed, by Friday. See? That's how you turn a problem into something the team can actually act on. So dependency is a biggie, but it's really just one piece of the puzzle. As you can see here, there's a whole vocabulary that we rely on. Things like wireframe, prototype, and user flow. Those are the building blocks for design talks. And on the flip side, you have scope, release notes, and MVP. Those are the terms that ground the project's delivery. You don't have to be a master of all of them, but having that shared definition, that's what stops misunderstandings before they even start. All right, let's get specific. We're going to move into our first role-based playbook, and we're focusing on the UX/UI designer. So how can you structure your update for the most impact and the most clarity? Let's look at some really simple but powerful phrases. Think of these like sentence starters or little templates. They give you a natural, professional way to frame your progress, your blockers, and your plans. Using them is a signal to your team that you're thinking systematically about your work. Okay, so let's see this in action. A great update always kicks off with progress, and the structure here is just fantastic. The designer states their focus, they explain the user problem they were trying to solve, and this is so important. They back up their solution with actual testing. That is what an evidence-based update really sounds like. Next up, you have to talk about your roadblocks. But here's the pro move. Don't just state the problem, state the action you've already taken. Saying, "I've faced a blocker and I've already reported it," shows ownership. It tells the team you're not just sitting around waiting for a fix, you're actively trying to find one. And finally, you always want to end with a clear next step. This just gets rid of any confusion about where your focus is headed. So there you have it, a really simple but powerful formula. Talk about your progress, name your blocker, and state your next step. Okay, let's shift gears to our next playbook and see how this works for a project owner. Now, the focus is going to move from individual design tasks to the overall health and direction of the entire project. So the project owner's language is all about priorities, alignment, and coordination. Their phrases reflect that higher-level view, making sure the sprint is on track, dependencies are being handled, and all the stakeholders know what's going on. So a project owner's progress update sounds a bit different. It's less about one specific screen and much more about the entire release. They are the guardians of the sprint goal, and their update should reflect that, reassuring the whole team that the big picture is actually coming together. Now, a PO often talks about risks, which are a little different than blockers. A blocker is something stopping you right now. A risk is something that might stop you later. By flagging this API integration, the PO is making the entire team aware of a potential problem down the road, which lets everyone plan for it. And the PO's next steps? They often involve looking outside the immediate team. Here, you see them coordinating with the legal department and getting release notes ready. This just shows their role in connecting what the development team is doing to the wider business. So, we've covered the playbooks for what to say, but how you say it matters just as much. These next few tips are universal. They apply to literally everyone on the team and will help your delivery sound way more confident and collaborative. These tips all kind of flow together to create a much better tone. It starts simple. Use first names. That small change makes everything feel more personal. From there, it's about acknowledging your teammates' work. A quick thanks goes such a long way. When you talk about your own work, try to anchor it with some data or user feedback. It adds a ton of credibility. And remember to find that sweet spot between being concise and still showing your personality. Finally, you always land the plane with a clear next step so everybody knows where you're headed. So, what does this all boil down to? Really, just 3 key ideas. The first, and honestly the most important, is clarity. Above all else, your update has to clearly answer 3 questions. What did I do? What's in my way? And what am I going to do next? And that individual clarity is what leads to our second word, alignment. When every single person gives a clear update, the entire team gets aligned. Everybody understands how their little piece fits into the big puzzle, what their real priorities are, and where the potential problems are hiding. And finally, all that clarity and alignment have to lead to action. A great stand-up isn't just a discussion, it's a launch pad. It creates momentum. Every update should be pushing the project forward, turning plans into real, tangible progress. And that brings us to the end. So I'll just leave you with a little challenge. Based on everything we just talked about, what is the one simple change you can make in your next stand-up to bring more clarity, more alignment, and more action to your team? Thanks for watching.